Yes! What is up, everyone? And first off, let's f***ing go. And second off, let's f***ing go. And third, it is time for previews and predictions. And we're gonna start with Liverpool versus Spurs. And my absolute favorite part about this matchup is that Spurs, during the international break, opened up their brand new stadium. Finally, it is done. After years of work, it is finished and ready to go. So how do they get to celebrate this great news? By having to travel to Anfield to get their asses kicked by Liverpool. Okay, fine, they're not gonna get their asses kicked by Liverpool, even though they haven't won at Anfield since 2011. Or even though they have struggled against teams in the top 6 this season, with their last league win against one of these sides coming way back in September. Or even though they've lost their last 3 away games in the league, which has seen them, or let's say, which has seen Arsenal and Manchester United close the gap on them, so now they're clipping Spurs' heels on the table. Though I'm sure United wouldn't have any problem with Spurs winning this one if that meant that Liverpool wouldn't end up winning the league. And actually, that makes me wonder, if you're a Manchester United fan, would you rather, and I love would you rathers, would you rather Liverpool win the league and you finish in the top 4, which means you'd be in the Champions League, or would you rather Liverpool not win the league and you finish outside of the top 4, which could hurt you in the summer transfer window because everybody loves to play in the Champions League and you wouldn't be in that competition? I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you in the comments. Anyway, without getting too much into the weeds about the big decision that I believe Mauricio Pochettino has to make about which formation he's going to play, like, is he going to go with a back 3, which in theory would allow him to have more numerical advantages in midfield, which is the stuff that I geek out about. You guys know that. Soccer nerd alert. Soccer nerd, I'm a soccer nerd, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I just don't know if it's gonna make that much of a difference because Liverpool were playing very well before the international break, and no other player was playing better on their squad than Sadio Mane, who has put the team on his back offensively these last few months, most notably with his 7 goals in the last 5 games, which has helped the Reds keep pace with Manchester City at the top of the table. Also, if we factor in, and I think that we should, that Liverpool have only dropped points twice at Anfield this season, and they're on an unbeaten run of 36 home league matches in a row, which is just mind-blowing. I'm sensing a pattern of positivity here, so I'm going with Liverpool to win this 2-1. And now let's head to Italy for, and please sing it with me, Roma, 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 versus Napoli, which is also known as the Derby del Sole, or the Derby of the Sun, which doesn't really make all that much sense. And honestly, it doesn't matter because, let me just be straight up with you guys. Things are an absolute shit show for Roma right now. And just to catch you up as to why, well, here you go. Well, before the international break, they got bounced from the Champions League by Porto, and then they fired their coach, and then they hired Claudio Ranieri, and then they squeaked by 16th place Empoli before losing to 15th place Spal, which is still so unacceptable. So now they find themselves sitting in 5th. A full 4 points behind 4th place AC Milan for that last Champions League spot in Serie A, and that's a resurgent AC Milan, and I don't think they're gonna catch them. So they have to start worrying about the other side of things, and they're only 2 points above Atalanta and Lazio, so this is a must-win game against a very good opponent. But who's going to be playing for them? De Rossi, Pastore, Florenzi, Pellegrini, Kolarov, El Shaarawy, and Under are all apparently out. Though, maybe Roma's playing coy as to who's healthy and who's not for a little gamesmanship. And maybe it won't even matter at all because Napoli have absolutely nothing to play for. They're not going to catch Juve at the top, and Inter's not going to catch them from 3rd place, so they have 2nd place all wrapped up. It is theirs, which means they can now turn all their energy and focus on winning the Europa League. So maybe their manager, Carlo Ancelotti, who's a master at those one-off competitions, could rest some key guys coming out of that international break, which then Roma could take advantage of. But maybe that's wishful thinking because Napoli are pretty f***ing good. However, as a Roma fan, I must stay optimistic, so I'm gonna say Roma 1, Napoli 0, until I remember that Olsen plays in goal for Roma, and when he's between the sticks, a clean sheet just never seems to happen. So I'm gonna say 2-1 Roma. And now let's go to the Deutschland for Borussia Dortmund versus Wolfsburg, because if there was one team that really needed that international break to rest and reset and refocus, it was Dortmund. Because after getting knocked out of the DFB Pokal and the Champions League, and after blowing their lead at the top of the table to Super Bayern all in the space of 2 months, they most definitely needed this rest that the international break provided so that they could focus on something different. Maybe they got called into their national team and they're all around your different guys and the positivity and they can feel good about themselves again, or maybe they didn't go and they got to relax, because sometimes the rest is just as important as the work. So I'm very curious to see how Dortmund performs in this one, especially against a Wolfsburg team who are the 4th best team away from home in the Bundesliga. However, Dortmund are the only team in the Bundesliga yet to lose a game at home, and Marco Reus is playing. And when Marco Reus plays, Dortmund never lose. So I think Dortmund are going to take this 3-1. And then there's Ajax versus PSV, which could decide the Eredivisie this very weekend because second place Ajax are 5 points behind first place PSV, which means if you're doing the math at home, if PSV win, they'll have an 8-point gap with 7 games left to go. And I just don't see Ajax making up that ground. However, if Ajax wins, then the gap is only going to be 2 points, which means the league is going to be truly up for grabs again. It's going to be wide open. So this is the game of the season in Holland, and I wish I was there at Johan Cruyff Arena to witness it because the tension and excitement is going to be next level. Anyway, I know that both of these teams like to score goals, but for whatever reason, I feel like this one is going to be played tight since both teams aren't going to want to really take that big risk. Maybe Ajax at the end if they're chasing the game or if it's tied and they want to get all 3 points, but that could then leave them vulnerable on a counterattack and that would hurt them even more and the league would be over. I'm going to say 1-1. And next up, it's another big derby and maybe one of the biggest. It's the old firm Celtic versus Rangers. And the last time that these two teams met was back in December. And for the first time in 2.5 years, Rangers finally beat Celtic in that match and they celebrated like it. And in fact, I feel like everybody was somewhat celebrating about it because it meant at that point in time that the Scottish Premiership was actually competitive again. However, fast forward 3 months later and Celtic have a 10-point lead at the top, which is what we all expected anyway, and just kind of took all the fun out of watching the Scottish Premiership. Wah, wah, wah. But Celtic have a new but old manager, Neil Lennon, once he took over for Brendan Rodgers, who left for Leicester City. But Lennon hasn't been given the full-time job yet. So he, along with all of his players who are definitely going to want revenge after losing the last old firm, are going to be properly motivated in this one because I feel like if Lennon wins this, he will get the full-time job. That's how meaningful this game in particular means to Celtic and the club and their supporters. Plus, they're playing at Celtic Park in front of their home supporters. They're not going to lose this one. I got Celtic taking it 3-1. And now it's time for the Catalan derby between Barcelona and Espanyol, which prior to the international break, I would have said it would have been an easy run out for Barcelona because their form was excellent. They won 5 straight league matches, which has given them a 10-point lead at the top of the table, while Espanyol haven't won a game away from home since October, and it was against Huesca and not one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the league. But maybe more important than that is the emotional aspect, because I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Gerard Piqué came out on a comedy show, no less, so we'll take that with a grain of salt. But he made an off-the-cuff comment that he has more money than all of Espanyol's budget for this season. So my initial thought to that is, it must be nice to be married to Shakira and claim her money as your own. Anyway, the disrespect here is at 100, so you'd like to think that will give Espanyol a little more juice when they're running around, but if Messi plays, I'm sorry Espanyol, he's been playing really well, he's a really good player, I don't think you're gonna win. But if he doesn't play, I got you going for the upset. I think it's gonna happen. And by upset, I mean a draw. And now we head to North America for a Cascadia Cup derby. Lots of derbies this weekend when the Vancouver Whitecaps host the Seattle Sounders. And I'm going to keep this one pretty simple because the Whitecaps are only one of 2 teams out of the 24 that currently exist in MLS that have lost all 3 of their games to start this new season. While the Sounders are the only team in MLS to have won their first 3 games of the season. So based on form, the Sounders should walk all over them. But what's that phrase? Beware of the wounded tiger. No. The wounded tiger is a dangerous beast, and Vancouver feels wounded right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they put out a big performance, but Seattle are so good, and they can hurt you in so many different ways. So I'm gonna say my favorite scoreline. I'm going 2-2. And then finally we head to Mexico for a battle of the big boys, Club America versus Tigres. And as much as I respect and admire the intimidating structure that America calls home, Estadio Azteca, which I believe gives them a huge advantage over most clubs are not Tigres, who haven't lost in the league since match day 3, which is a run of 7 wins and 1 draw over those 8 games. And they've yet to lose away from home all Clausura season. Plus, they have a beast up top named Andre Pierre Gignac. The guy is unreal. So lo siento, America, you're not winning this one. So let me be the first to say, no mames way. And all right, that is it. That is all I got. So pick the right score for. Oh, there's so many good games to choose from. Let's just say Liverpool versus Spurs. And if you get it exactly right, you'll be entered to win some Warm Baller stickers. Also, be on the lookout for my Europa League quarterfinals predictions and a new career mode and previews and predictions on this very YouTube channel this upcoming week. And if you're on Twitch and you're not following me, what's the deal? Come on, come hang out. And if you're not on Twitch and you want to see what it's all about, go to twitch.tv/Jimmy Conrad and come lurk. Just come check out what it's about, and if you like it, then you can sign up and join the party. We're having a great time over there, and I want you to have a great time too. And finally, have a good or bad weekend, everyone. I really mean that. Later.